Okay, shall we start? Sorry for the delay, 3 minutes. Dear guests, welcome to the European Data Summit of the Konrad Adenauer Foundation. My name is Pencho Kuzev, and I'm a Data and Digital Policy Coordinator of the Foundation. It is my pleasure, together with Lina from Tagesspiegel and Walter from the Open Knowledge Foundation, to navigate you through this conference. It is my special pleasure to warmly welcome our foreign guests coming from 8 or 9 countries. I would like to mention a couple of them. Sandra Serev, the Global Director in the CE Office of the Government of Estonia. Then Martin Semberger, responsible for the PSI Open Data in the Austrian Presidency of the Council of the European Union. Mika Honkanen, my data specialist and head of Open Data Finland. Simon Gignard from the French Prime Minister's task force in charge of open data. And probably Sebastian Rable from the European Parliament. I think he is also here somewhere. It is my pleasure now to invite Mr. Thomas Heilmann, the member of the German Parliament and member of the Committee on the Digital Agenda, to open the summit. Mr. Heilmann is also an IT entrepreneur, and if I may say, he is even, I think, was a former shareholder of Facebook, if I may say. And he is of our leading politician when it comes to e-government in the CDU. So it's my pleasure. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. A warm welcome from my side, too. I'm very glad that the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung is holding that event, because we are looking for answers we don't have yet in terms of data as a resource. We have a lot of... Sorry? Sorry about this. We have a lot of discussion and a lot of concepts regarding privacy and data protection, which is for sure an important aspect of the revolution which is coming to us since some years, and will certainly, if I think about it, AI, have a more bigger impact. The other aspect of data is as important as privacy, to my mind, as it will be the resource, or one of the important resources at least, for the future of our social market. It is obvious, and I believe you all have some ideas about data and resources, that in the digital revolution, data is very important. So I would like to give an impulse by a comparison. This is again a revolution, and the real prior revolution was the so-called Industrial Revolution. And it's always easier to look back and see what kind of movements have been taken place to understand what may come in the future. In order to have a developed social economy, the Industrial Revolution made the German states, as well as other states, to take many reforms in the 19th century. In a German context, people always think of a reform in the 19th century about the social reforms by Bismarck, which are indeed very important, but are the least radical reforms we have done in the 19th century. There was no free market. There was not even the allowance to open up your own store at the beginning of the 19th century. This all has changed, but I don't want to go into details because I want to focus on one specific law introduced 1851, and it's the merchant law, or in German the HGB. This made every businessman forced at the end of every year to come with a balance sheet and come with a profit and loss statement. In a standard form, where you have the activa on the left side and the passiva on the right side. You could have done it the other way around. It would have worked too, but we made a standardization out of it. And then you had a statement at the end of the year where everyone know whether you have a bakery or in agriculture, have been in agriculture, or you had a store, or you had a machinery. No matter what kind of business you into, you had one statement at the end and one cash flow statement at the end, and everyone knew what is the financial situation of this particular business at the end. That made it possible that we had merchant banks. So Deutsche Bank, Dresdner Bank, Commerzbank, all has been founded thereafter in order to give capital, loans to those businesses, because they trusted the statements, and the statements have been protected by criminal law. So if you give a false statement at the end, it's still today, it is a criminal law, and so everyone could trust the financial statement at the end of the year, which was standardized no matter what you have done. That was a very important step, and without that step, the so-called Gründerjahre, that is again a German expression for the wealth which came in the Industrial Revolution to Germany, specifically to Berlin, was only possible because of that law and that standardization. And I took that example or that comparison because I believe we need such a radical step in data as a resource again. We need to come to an agreement what kind of data is public, which public data is accessible to everyone, but what private data should be accessible to everyone. And I want to emphasize that it's not too important to discuss for years now where is the exact border, where is data open and where is data not open, but it is important that we come to an agreement and find a line in saying that this kind of data is open and not, so that everyone who has a business can deal with it, which is this kind of security, to my mind, is more important than a dispute about the question, should Google give those data open and those data don't? They don't have to. It's not that important where it is. It is important for innovation that we find those rules. I suggested to the German government that they not should wait for the European Commission, who is pretty reluctant to really come to a conclusion, if I understand their papers rightly, and that we have a French-German initiative, which something come with a suggestion and invite other countries to join, because it's more important that 3 or 4 big European countries start with such a regulation as national regulation, but coordinated, and then others are invited too. If Great Britain steps out of the EU, which is pretty likely, as everyone knows, then it's more important to convince the UK to join us than any small country in Europe, very obviously. We need those answers, and therefore I'm very delighted to listen to the forums, which will follow after my short introduction. And I'm very interested in the paper you will, at the end of or after this data summit, will publish, because I'm very interested in many thoughts and all answers are not there yet. So thank you very much for holding, and thank you very much to all of you that you joined this summit. Thank you very much.